I was groomed and raped for 7 years of my childhood. So shocker, I have C-PTSD. I've turned it into something I can do to help the world, though. I'm using what I got. Welcome to the club that no one wants to be in, but I am absolutely positive that through either your own experience or that of somebody you know, you definitely need to be here and understand what C-PTSD is, how it differs from PTSD, what you don't know if you have C-PTSD, and who am I? Well, I'm a neurolinguistic practitioner specializing in C-PTSD. As I said at the top, I was groomed and raped. Don't call it abuse. It's assault. When someone is raped, when they are sexually violated, when they are touched in a way that they did not approve of or consent to or understand because they were little children, that is assault. So you're going to every single workshop, everything I do, every talk, in person, online, whatever, it's always going to come up. Call it assault. Call it assault. Call it assault. Rape is assault. And when you diminish our experience by calling assault childhood abuse, you know, it affects everything from the legal systems, the ramifications for what the judicial process does in the way of sentencing, to, more importantly, to societal expectations. Societal expectations are boys will be boys, and, you know, all men think little girls are sexy, and this kind of thing. It's no. This is not what is permeated human history in every society is acceptable. And we've gone to great extremes to create shame-based controls. And that's where we're at. That's why SPADES, which is an acronym, obviously, I hope that was obvious. SPADES, S, first S, the shame is not yours. And that's where we're at today. But let's run through them all. P, we're going to separate the past from the present next week. And every week, every single letter will come up every single day because they are all intertwined. But the focus, like when I get in-depth and scientific on you, will be in its letter because I don't have time to do that in every one of these. So, S, the shame is not yours. We're going to learn to put it where it belongs and to recognize it for what it is. You may not even know you have C-PTSD. Most people don't. Most doctors don't even have the information. They're not even up with the program, right? Until a few years ago, C-PTSD was considered a esoteric buzz of some kind of what? And PTSD was considered an anxiety disorder treated with drugs, which it still is predominantly. And full disclosure, I take Prazosin every night, which is a PTSD specific thing that some studies show has no effect at all. But when I took it, quit taking it, and started taking it again, I noticed a huge result from a 1 milligram dose. And a normal dose is like 12. So a tiny little bit of Prazosin, yeah. That's just me. We'll talk about all that later. We'll talk about that later. And don't wait to feel okay to be okay. But back to the top. Shame is caused by societal expectations. And initially that wasn't a bad thing. Initially, it kind of, it arose out of the need for human civilization to adopt standards of behavior. We needed rules and standards of behavior. So if you deviated from the norm, then you felt ashamed. And feeling ashamed can be guilt. And guilt can be healthy. Guilt can teach you to do something differently. Oh, I did something wrong. I, an inherently good person, did something wrong, is what guilt says. What shame-based people say are, I did something wrong because I am bad. I am inherently bad. I am bad to the bone, bad, and not in a good way. I am baddie, bad, bad, bad. That is a shame-based person. When they screw up anything or even perceived themselves as screwing up anything. I can perceive myself to have screwed up walking in the door. I looked wrong. Oh, I noticed that there's, something out of place, and I feel like I've screwed up. I feel like I'm a terrible person because I am shame-based. And people with C-PTSD are always shame-based. Now, here's where we differ on this program. So if you're a C-PTSD sufferer, and I don't like the word suffer, I like to substitute instead, it's a condition. If you have the condition of complex PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, then you are different than people with post-traumatic stress syndrome, in that because it happened, the complex means repeatedly and at an age where your brain is still developing, and your brain is still growing until you're like 25 years old. There are different studies tweaking the years by a couple this way and that way. But pretty much till your mid-20s, your brain is still growing and developing. So imagine if you are a child like I was. By the time I was actually involved in sexual acts, which was by 12, I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that it came with the feeling of wrongness. And the part that we're going to get, this is kind of where I was going with this, we are more specific here than C-PTSD. I am talking with people who have been assaulted sexually in their childhood, where their first sexual experiences were that of being sexually violated, because it has done things to you that you don't know it did, probably. 20 years of study, research, therapy, 3 marriages, 3 divorces, to people that weren't horrible people. It was just me picking them wrong. Also, they weren't not horrible people. They weren't horrible people, but we all are different, and we all, with C-PTSD, we are shame-based. And if it's sexually caused, if it's caused from a sexual violation as a child, or what I like to call assault, as I said, we're going to work that in everywhere, call it assault. If that is the cause of your C-PTSD, then you have developed, or not developed rather, the same neurological connections that a normal child would. Nobody with any kind of C-PTSD, and that means everything from neglect to, a perfect family that expects you to be perfect and you never feel like you measure up, being talked to in a way that demeans you all the time, being deprived of basic necessities, even with loving parents, if you were food deprived, poverty bound. There's a lot of ways to have C-PTSD. So I am working more specifically, also there, but more specifically with people with sexual assault, childhood sexual assault related CPTSD. And I'm here to tell you, your brain does not have the same neural connectivity of a person who just, even if they were a, pardon the term, because I don't believe in these kind of terms, that's slut, promiscuous, whatever. If a person's making their own choices, then they can feel guilty about the choices that they made. But if a person is making bad choices because they are so shame-bound, and in the case of sexual assault CPTSD survivors, they are dissociating to the point that sex is a thing. For me, I had sex just because if someone could get me cornered and started to have sex with me at a certain point after I got away from my assailant, and before, even, well, during and after, briefly, before I got a grip on myself, it looks like promiscuous. And that's why a lot of people don't understand when you say, oh, I was sexually assaulted, I have CPTSD. Well, what do you mean? You ran around, you've been married and divorced 3 times, you had a lot of boyfriends. It's like, A, red flag. That's not normal. That's not healthy. Don't be jealous. That means I was sick. That means there was something wrong. I don't understand. I get from my own sibling that everything from being drunk and telling me they're jealous of me and all these experiences, to being like nailing me to a cross for doing this program, writing my book. You can't talk about it. Shame, shame, shame. They want to keep us trapped in shame so we don't talk and we don't screw up the family and we don't blah, blah, blah. You know where I'm going with all this. It's about you. It's about you. So back to the top. Shame is the feeling, okay, reverse that, says Willy Wonka. Guilt says, ooh, me, basically a good person, I screwed up, I did something wrong, I am now going to fix that thing. Even if you're a narcissist asshole who's manipulating and using people, if you truly feel good about yourself inside, you know, then guilt can just, you can fix it. You can fix it and walk away. But shame means every single thing that goes wrong in your life, from relationships to jobs to friends to stumbling on the goddamn sidewalk and stubbing your toe, is I'm a terrible person. I'm a terrible person. And I want to bust apart that myth. We need to know where it comes from. We need to know why it rears its ugly head, and we need to know what to do about it. Okay? So where it comes from. Your caregivers, and I precurse this with, I had great parents who loved me, who were, I thought, you know, for their time, Norman Rockwell, good parents. They just did not have a clue to know what to look for. They weren't even looking. They didn't know they should be looking at all. Back then, you didn't worry about anybody if they weren't in a van with dark windows, sneaking around to steal your children. Nowadays, we understand that it's your neighbor, it's your preacher, it's your coach, it's your doctor, it's your teacher, or it's your brother-in-law. If you need a moment, ever, throw this in there. Just take it. I need a moment. That is one of the, getting red-faced, one of the C-PTSD flashbacks that I have every day. All day long, things trigger me. Almost no one notices. My partner notices. They notice immediately before I do, which is very helpful. We're going to talk all about that in Don't Wait to Feel Okay to Be Okay, because having a good partner, the right partner, can make all the difference, and choosing wrong ones is exactly what we do. That's what we do as people with CPTSD. And the worst thing is, usually when we're picking our bad partners, the person who is shame-based, who responds by giving, by doing whatever anybody wants. Like I said, almost anybody I've ever had sex with, sorry, I didn't want to. I just didn't know that no was a thing. So I practiced avoidance and escapism. And if that didn't work, then I learned as a child the way to the end is through. Right? Now I know that the way to the end is by blowing their face off. Pardon me, I am very, very pro personal protection while also being very progressive. So I'm just saying, I've changed, and it's very typical to find it hard to set boundaries for yourself, physically, emotionally. Someone asks you to do something, you do it. At work, you take the extra shifts, you do the extra work, you don't take the breaks. In relationships, you're sorry, even if it's not your fault, you're still sorry because you just don't want it to be bad. This is not a way to live. And you get together with the other type of person with CPTSD who has turned into a narcissist, because narcissists, while they look like they're all together, they look like they love themselves so goddamn much, pardon my language, so much, they really have the deep shame themselves, and their narcissism itself is a cover. So you put together these two types of people, And it's just like, you know, it's a Mentos and a Coke. It's just stand back. Stand back. You will be cleaning up the mess. You will be cleaning up the mess. So we're going to learn about that too later in this. But today is shame. So I want to get back. I've got my chapter of shame, which I'm going to release tomorrow. Oh, I'm on my iPad and I have the wrong code. This is the part that gets deleted. I never edit, but evidently that's a thing I do now, because now I'm a neuro-linguistic practitioner, actually not just coaching with people the way I used to, but still for free the way I used to, but now with knowledge on how to best really work with and help. If you've been with me for a while, you know I started ranting and raving during a political crisis and a pandemic on my back porch. It often involved wine and marijuana. And while it still involves marijuana, generally speaking, that has come a long way from parading myself through every drug there was out there. Legal. Because they treated me for PTSD. And it never, ever worked. And so that's where I'm going with this. I took Paxil, Zoloft, Wellbutrin, Effexor. Oh my God, I took one of those and tripped for 3 days. I'm like, they have to take it for 2 weeks, they say. I'm like, I can't get out of bed for 2 more days. So I'm not going to be taking one more of these pills. And the deal is, back to the top, and then we'll get out of here pretty soon, pretty shortly. You can't drug away C-PTSD because it is inherent. Shame and childhood-based, neurodivergent, you never grew the same connectivity, that kind of shame doesn't go away without effort. But you can retrain yourself. I did. Yes, I have triggers every day. Yes, the training helps you handle them. Spoiler alert, there's no graduation day. There's no graduation day for survivors of CSA with C-PTSD. But, like every condition that one can be born with or acquire, you can learn to manage it. And you can have a wonderful life, and you can have great sex. That's the other thing. I had a lot of sex early on. And to this day, I can't remember any of it. I can remember being there, but I can't remember sensations or sights or smells or any of that. But I can 100% remember every bit of the sights and smells and sensations of being violated as a child. And that's where the disconnect comes in. That's where the shame, watch everybody else's videos on C-PTSD. The Crappy Childhood Fairy is amazing. Great. Tim Fletcher, very, very good, especially if you have a Christian religious base. But you don't even need that. Just at the point where it gets all gaudy on you, you can tune out, or I find it very interesting to go on and listen to that. But there's a whole lot on C-PTSD. And then survivor stories about sexual assault, C-PTSD. But we really need to get specific in order to heal. And specific means you deserve orgasms, and not the kind that you make with a vibrator, and not the kind. I'm saying you deserve an intimate partnership. And one thing I have learned that I believe is true for everyone, and this is where some people drive me nuts thinking progressives are all about sex, free sex. It's like, no. Sex is something that can only, at least for a C-PTSD survivor, you can only achieve the depths of it that you never knew were there if you're with one person you trust, an intimate partner. So for people that are not like that, that's fine. I am not gender specific here. I work with people of all orientations and with all kinds of partners. If you're pansexual or whatever all the other words are that I don't know, can't keep straight, but respect, that's fine. I'm saying your partner and you should function on an intimate level. And this is where shame-bound cultures, which is pretty much all of them now, which is why this has to happen, which is why Sweet Survivor exists. Women in this world, women and others in this world deserve to have equal rights, equal say, and you cannot call it culture when you disparage against somebody based on their sex or their orientation or anything. It's not okay to say that's just their culture, that women can't vote, can't drive, can't make their own decisions, and that their vagina is given away by their daddy to somebody else. There is nothing more disgusting, and yes, add me to your death list, whoever is that person, because I get the threats. Yes, I challenge your culture. If your culture disparages against anybody in the way of human rights, you don't have to like it, but we all live here. Okay, Those Nasty Women podcast is going to start rolling, actually, the week after next. These workshops, full disclosure, need to be all uploaded at the same time to the podcast, and then we're going to roll with the talk, with really getting more into the society and the political, but I'm beginning to stray as I do. I want to get back to shame specifically. Overcoming shame means learning the ways it has affected you in your life, the ways it has manifested, the ways that you have developed differently. And I'm here to tell you, I just learned myself, not even 3 years ago, the first time that I wanted to have sex with someone for real, not because I wanted to, because I thought we'd have something in common, or, in the past I wanted to do things, but not because they smelled right, or a gut chemical level, not because there's nothing on this earth that can stop me from getting in your pants right now, to be blunt. That was new to me. Before it was a head decision, this one. So I had to literally slow down, rewrite parts of my book, rethink all of this, because I've come from a base of 14 years of being alone, There's been some sex in there, but only on a peripheral, I don't care level. And it was sucky, because when I discovered that I could actually be orgasmic with a human being less than 3 years ago, I was like, holy shit. And it led me down a path of discovery to realize the reason is that if you have C-PTSD, if you were sexually violated as a child, then you still felt it. You still had sensations. When I think back, the hardest thing, and I'm probably going to get teary, I'm going to try not to do that thing, I'm going to stay out of my own rabbit hole here, but when I think of the memory of the drives and the hands in my pants and the other things, mouth on my breast and all this, that where it would be eventually, sicko. I remember feeling that. And I know that on some level that now I know that those sexual feelings are good feelings. But at the time, it was immediately associated with guilt and shame and confusion. So thereafter, even through my marriages, even through anybody I've ever been with, I'm sorry to tell you, I can't remember it. I dissociated at the point of go. Because as soon as those feelings arose that made me want to be in the situation in the first place, I continued on in the situation, but removed myself emotionally and physically from it and watched it from afar. And it became performance art. And so for people with sexually induced, childhood sexual assault induced C-PTSD, sex is a performance art, and we don't know it. And I am going to spend my life trying to blow that door down, because the idea of living one day without an orgasm is insane to me. Insane. And some people say, oh, you're a nymph, or that's crazy, or you grow out of it. It's like, no. Then what you have is a construct. Your relationship is a construct if you don't want to take care of each other physically. And that's fine. If that's the kind of relationship you both want, kudos. I'm happy for you. I support you in your decision. But if you, like me, need physical touch, need orgasmic release, need that bond, but can't and don't want to seek it in multiple places, you're going to need to learn how to open that doorway. How to open that doorway so that you can experience feeling. And only way I believe that can happen is in the loving embrace of your partner. And sucks. You don't have a partner, right? What do you do now? Shut up, Linda, right? Well, neither did I for a long time. Not for writing this book for a long time. But then I learned about dissociation. I learned I was doing it. And I suddenly, years into therapy, counseling, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy and such, I realized, you know what? Dissociation is not such a bad thing. This is actually my way of walking away, which I've said before, I've done perhaps too fast, too abruptly, and without any consideration in the past. But it still saved me in a lot of cases. And now, with some knowledge, with some applied education, I can use dissociation for good, not evil, against myself and others in the world. Meaning, I can remove from my life things that don't fit. I can change my job, or at least head that way. I can change my partner, or at least head that way. You're not going to change your partner. I mean, change as in swap. But the first thing you have to do is find you. And I'm going to preach to you that selfishness is the only path to selflessness. Because if you are only giving, and never receiving, whether it's stuff or love or food, housekeeping, or orgasms, back to the top of this section, orgasms, if you are only the giver and not the receiver, you can't give very well. You will be a performance artist like I was. You're welcome. Didn't have any complaints. But you know what? There's a better way to live. The way where I'm having them, the orgasms, where we both are, and because I am, my partner is experiencing life at a higher level. And even if it's not orgasms, I'm just saying the touch, the intimacy, the bonding that two people can achieve together, or more if you've been, whatever that word is for a bunch, whatever. That is worth changing your life for. Into your manifestation. Manifestation, don't let it scare you. I'll say this probably every day. Manifesting is not making things magically appear out of your wishes, hopes, and dreams. Manifesting is removing the things that don't fit your life until there's nothing left but what does. Short, sweet, and simple. Take out, piece by piece, as best you can. Probably not best just to run away, but depending on your situation, it might be best just to walk out the goddamn door like Tina did. Right? Put your clothes on, grab your bag, and get the hell out. That's the case for some people. For some people, it's plotting and planning and applying to agencies for help and reaching out to people like me or Rain. If you are in immediate help, call Rain, RAINN, to talk to someone if you're a sexual assault victim. If you have information on trafficking, please contact Thorn. In fact, my Sweet Survivor Rescue Fund and the Sweet Shopping Group that supports the Sweet Survivor Rescue Fund, which supports these workshops. In other words, everything I do in my life and have for the last 7 years has now been rolled into supporting Sweet Survivor. And I need you. I need you to do that. Because if we can just provide the information to people like Thorn who do the cyber research, who actually get in there and work with local, regional, federal, international governmental agencies and military groups and private agencies all in tandem to coordinate stopping traffickers and rescuing people in real time. Okay? Sweet Survivor is signing up people. Don't worry. Don't expect you to carry a gun and go save anybody, but you can do that too. That's okay. Some of us are in that realm. But a $5 a month subscription would be very helpful to the Sweet Survivor Rescue Fund. SweetSurvivor.com, SweetShoppingGroup.com, LindaKGifford.com. It all goes to the same place. It's all for Sweet, and I need you. We need you. So Thorn, I was back to Thorn, founded by Ashton Kushner and Demi Moore, and very active in it still. They're doing this research. They've got this coordination. They've got these abilities. So what we need to do is tell them what we see. So what I'm doing, I found the hole, one of the holes, another niche to fill, which is what I do. Sweet buys from women and family and community artists and entrepreneurs to make sure the money is going back to them. And what the Sweet Hero action teams are going to do is get the information to Thorn so they can go after these bastards. So join me in going after these bastards, okay? And the shame is not yours. Remember that. Back to the top. I've been going for a long time here today, and we're going to take this apart on a more literary, scientific level. The manifestations of shame, bullet point by bullet point, what it is, what it looks like, what to do about it tomorrow. So, in a perfect world, I'll see you at 3 tomorrow. I just got started with this whole restream thing, and I have had technical issues delay me 2 days now. So, perfect world tomorrow at 3. But if not, thereabouts for sure. Linda K. Gifford, Survivor, signing out. Please go sign up. Sweet Survivor. $5 a month. You can cancel anytime. I don't, just please help us out. Now I have to end 2 streams. They don't end at the same time. Not sure how to do this. Dork. I like being a dork. I wouldn't trade it for anything.